Hi everybody, welcome to our little place on our vacation in Hawaii. So what I wanted to do today is to show you that the most important thing when it comes to home cooking and being able to have healthy food is to be versatile and keep it simple. And there are certain things for me that are almost like no compromise. One of them, as I've told you so many times, is having fresh homemade yogurt with probiotics. So even on vacation, you can do your own yogurt, and it's way better than buying it from the store. And so I'm going to give you a real simple way to do it with just the most basic tools possible. So, of course, number one, you need a pot. I've already pre-filled this pot with 2 liters of milk, and I've chosen to use whole milk because I love yogurt with whole milk. It means you have to keep your portion sizes a little bit smaller, but it's up to you. Do you want to have that little extra calories when it comes to whole milk, or do you want to make it as low fat as possible? It's really your choice. For me, I decided a while ago that I wanted to have whole milk yogurt because it is spectacular. And the dairy fats have a special way of adding to the fermentation and creating a certain depth to the flavor. And I have been a long-time skeptic that dairy fats are the same as other saturated fats. I think everything in moderation, but when it comes to dairy fat, a modest amount of it is probably not so bad and maybe actually good for you. And we can go into that in another discussion because there's some good science behind that statement. What you'll need is a pot. Of course, you'll need some milk, and then you'll need some milk powder. And this is a really convenient way to do this because these are 1 cup each, these little packets. They come in a box, milk powder. And then a whisk is ideal, but if you don't have a whisk, just a fork will do. And so what you're going to do is put your 2 liters of whole milk in your pot, and you're going to add your milk powder. I'm just going to add them both. You may see them a little lumpy, but once you heat the milk up, you can stir it some more and make sure all the lumps are completely broken up. At home, I use an electric whisk, electric hand blender, but here we'll use this little whisk. And the milk is pretty close to the top of the pot here, so I don't want to make a big mess. Get too aggressive with my whisking, but as long as most of that milk is completely dissolved, it's good. The other thing that you'll need is a small thermometer. And I left my instant thermometer at home, and I have this cheapy thermometer that's like a candy thermometer. You need to be able to measure the temperature that the milk gets to when it's really hot, when you're pasteurizing the milk, because it's just the same process as doing it with the Instant Pot. The milk has to come up to a pasteurization temperature, which is about 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So here's a Fahrenheit thermometer. My milk powder is all dissolved. Now we're going to stick it on the stove with the thermometer in place. Just make sure the thermometer is not on the very bottom, but it shouldn't be on the very top either. It should be sort of suspended off the bottom by at least an inch or two, and that should give you a pretty accurate temperature as you're heating up your milk. So here we are. The milk is on the stove. I've got it on high. But beware, this is a part of the process that has to be carefully supervised. You do not want to burn your milk. It doesn't need to be boiled, and you don't want to have a huge mess to clean up. So it's important that you supervise this and keep your whisk handy and just frequently get in there and stir the milk and keep an eye on the temperature. It's going to take a while, so you can leave it for 5 minutes or so. But then you've got to really be on it, stirring it, watching it carefully, and the moment that it hits 180 degrees Fahrenheit, get it off the stove. So once that burner is really red hot, things go pretty fast. So the main thing to be aware of is you want to keep the layer of milk right on the very bottom, touching the pan. You want to keep that layer moving all the time. Otherwise you're going to get a scum and you could get some burned flavor in your milk, and you don't want that. So just you just have to kind of stand over it and baby it for a few minutes until you've come up to temperature. So I've turned the burner down to about 8 because it's getting hot really fast. It's now 160 degrees Fahrenheit, so we're on the last leg here. This is where it's really important that you supervise it and keep stirring, because you could definitely get some burned milk if you're not careful. All right, I've turned the burner down to 8 and it's getting hot really fast. It's 160 degrees Fahrenheit now. You can see a bit of steam coming off the milk and fine bubbles are forming on the top. So it's really important that you continue to supervise the milk and you stir vigorously. Don't stop now for even a second. Okay, I've turned the burner down to 8. It's now 170 degrees. It's getting pretty close. Now's the time to really keep an eye on it. Don't stop stirring for even a second. And if you see any little black bits coming to the surface, it means that you're going too fast. You've got to probably get it off the burner for a couple minutes, because there's some blackened bits on the bottom that you're scraping off. So 180 and she is done. So I'm going to carefully move this over to the cupboard, to a little hot spot here that I can let her cool down. Take my thermometer out, rinse it off, and put a lid on her, and we're going to leave it for as long as it takes and go do some shopping. All right, so it's been a couple hours. The pot with the hot milk has been sitting on the countertop, and now the temperature is around 100 degrees centigrade. So think of human body temperature. That's the temperature you want your yogurt to be, or maybe human body with a fever. So around 100, 102 maximum. But if you go to 105, 110, you're likely to kill some of your bacteria, maybe all of them. I've done that before. I've killed all my starter, and you end up at the end of your time of incubation with nothing but milk. You got to basically not necessarily start all over again, but warm it back up again to body temperature, add starter again, and do another 6 to 8 hours of incubation. But right now it's exactly 100 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a really good temperature. I'm going to be adding some yogurt from the fridge, and because I'm traveling, I don't have any starter with me. I went to a regular grocery store and I looked for a yogurt that had a fairly impressive list of ingredients in terms of the cultures in here. There's Strep thermophilus, Lactobacillus bulgaricus, Lactobacillus acidophilus, Bifidobacteria longum, and then Lactobacillus casei and Lactobacillus rhamnosus. So this is a pretty good probiotic mix if it's actually what it says it is in here. So I have to trust them that they've put the right ingredients on here. This is Chobani, and I'm going to use this whole very small container, and it might be worth just reserving 1 spoon just to try it, and then remember when your yogurt is done how much better your yogurt's going to be than this, because it's going to be way better than this. Nothing against Chobani or any brands, but for whatever reason in an industrial setting they can't make yogurt like you can make it at home. There's no way. I don't know why, but homemade yogurt is always better, way better. So I put my yogurt in. I'm going to use my whisk again, whisk it up until all the lumps break up. Don't be too aggressive scraping the bottom, because there is a bit of a scum on the bottom. Even if you're careful stirring your yogurt as it's heating, you're going to have some kind of cooked milk on the bottom. It isn't supposed to be burned, but you don't want any of those chunky bits to come up into your yogurt as you make it. So just be a little gentle with the stirring here. There we go. And it's come down a little bit below 100 now because the yogurt was a little cold. I'm going to put the lid on, and we're going to go over to the stove, where I have taken a big pot and filled it with hot water from the tap, and that's sitting inside the oven, warming the oven up as an incubation chamber. And now this yogurt will sit in there for the rest of the day, for 6 to 8 hours. And we're gonna pull it out and have a look. I'm gonna put my pot inside the oven. Oh, it's nice and warm in there because I have a big pot of hot water in there. So there it goes. So this hot water was just hot water out of the hot water tap. I've done it with boiling water before and the oven got too hot. So I've learned my lesson. If you're doing it this very low tech way, just put a big pot, the biggest pot you have, and fill it with hot water from the hot water tap. And just kind of keep an eye on it. You still could overheat the yogurt potentially, but probably not. It takes quite a bit of heat to heat the whole oven. It's probably going to make it just nice and warm. And after about 4 hours, I'm going to come back and check. And if this hot water is cooled down, I'm going to refill it with more hot water and make sure the yogurt stays warm through the whole process. So we're coming back in about 4 hours to check on our hot water and have a first look at the yogurt and see how it's doing. Okay, we started the process of incubation at 2 p.m. It's 5 hours later, 7 p.m. So we're going to just check on how things are going. The oven should still be a bit warm. I've got my hot water here, it's still warm. There's my yogurt. Let's just pull it out and have a peek. All right. Ooh, it's looking pretty yogurty, but not quite done yet. It's definitely gelling, but it's not quite thick enough. So what I'm going to do is take out this pot of hot water. I'm going to put some new hot water in there to give it the last couple of hours with some additional heat. Okay, it's now 9:30, which is about 7.5 hours from the time we put the yogurt into the warm oven. So it's been incubating for 7.5 hours, and it should be ready if everything's gone well. So let's have a look. There it is. Oh yeah, perfect. All right, let's go over and have a closer look at it. Okay, so first what I'm going to do a little taste test comparison. Here's, and nothing against Chobani yogurt. It's one of the best yogurts you can buy, and it's certainly where we got our bacteria from, but let's have a taste of that. Yeah, it's yogurt all right, but let's see what our homemade yogurt looks like. Oh, look at how thick that is. That is thick, thick yogurt. Look at that. Wonderful. Oh. There is no comparison. Don't ask me why, when you make it yourself from the same bacteria that they used, why this is 10 times better, but it is. I guess it's like a fresh loaf of bread. Like if it's stored for a week, it's not going to be the same bread as when it first came out of the oven. This is yogurt right out of the oven, if you will. And yeah, it was in the oven. So there we go. You could be on vacation with a simple kitchen and a few tools, and you can have yogurt the whole time you're there. You don't have to compromise. So there we go.